All right, welcome to today's Explainer. We're diving right into a seriously fascinating cultural tug of war that's playing out right now in Yoruba land. It's this incredibly compelling story. You've got deep ancestral roots colliding head on with modern religious legalism. But there's also this highly unique cultural firewall that has, honestly, against all odds, kept the peace for generations. Unpacking what's happening here tells us a ton about identity, tolerance, and how societies manage deeply, deeply opposing forces today. So let's just get right into it. Okay, let's map out where we're headed. We'll start with Section 1, Yoruba pluralism and identity. Then we'll hit Section 2, the Renaissance of Isese, followed by Section 3, the push for Sharia. After that, we'll look at Section 4, an identity tug-of-war, and we'll wrap up with Section 5, Omoluabi, the cultural firewall. So, Section 1, Yoruba pluralism and identity, the historical baseline. To really grasp the current tension, we first got to understand the ground we're standing on. In Yoruba culture, the absolute primary unit of identity is Ebi, which essentially translates to family. For generations, blood ties have completely superseded sectarian and religious lines. You belong to your family first, long before you belong to any specific religious congregation. Getting a handle on this foundation is absolutely crucial, because it really sets the stage for everything we're about to explore today. This deeply ingrained family-first, sect-second identity, it's acted as a remarkably powerful unifying force. It's actively prevented the kind of rigid religious division that literally fractures other regions around the globe. But today, well, this historical baseline is being seriously challenged and stretched by new, highly passionate movements seeking to completely redefine what it actually means to belong. Moving on to Section 2, the Renaissance of Isese, a return to indigenous roots. Which brings us to Isese, meaning tradition or source. This is the indigenous religion and philosophy of the Yoruba people. At its core, it centers around worshiping the supreme being Olodumare through intermediaries known as the Orisha. Nailing down this terminology is key because it's the driving engine of a massive traditionalist revival currently sweeping right through youth and intellectual circles. And this renaissance goes way beyond just ritual. It's a completely multifaceted movement. First off, it's a drive for cultural reclamation, actively preserving the Yoruba language, traditional ethics, and indigenous medicine, after decades of, frankly, being sidelined. Secondly, and this is super interesting, is the global Orisa effect. The immense prestige of Yoruba traditions in places like Cuba with Santeria or Brazil with Candomblé has basically filtered back to Nigeria, giving local practitioners this profound sense of global validation. And third, it's about political recognition. Traditionalists are actively pushing back against the dominance of Abrahamic faiths, basically demanding equal footing in the public square. And they're actually winning some pretty significant political victories. Take Isese Day on August 20th. It's now an official public holiday in several Southwest states, including Oyo, Ogun, Lagos, and Osun. I mean, that is a massive shift in power dynamics. It clearly signals that traditionalists are demanding equal respect and, they're simply no longer accepting a secondary status in their own homeland. All right, Section 3, the push for Sharia, formalizing Islamic jurisprudence. Now, context is literally everything here. Islam is absolutely not a recent import to Yoruba land. Remarkably, it's been present since at least the 14th century. However, its traditional expression in this specific region has historically been much more syncretic and flexible than what you might find, say, up in northern Nigeria. What we're seeing now, though, is a distinct, formalized shift away from those historically less legalistic roots. So, what's exactly driving this push? Well, primarily it's legal advocacy. Proponents are actively seeking to establish formal Sharia civil courts to handle matters specifically for Muslims, things like marriage, inheritance, and divorce. But, as you might guess, this advocacy triggers some intense local anxieties. First, you've got a distinct north-south tension, where some Yoruba elites worry this push might just be a vehicle for northern political influence. Second, there are profound security concerns. The region has largely resisted militant incursions, but there are definitely rising local fears regarding extremist elements and kidnappings operating out of the southwest forests. To understand this objectively, we really have to draw a hard, definitive line here. The local push in this region is strictly for civil Sharia, handling family law, marriage, and inheritance. This is entirely 100% distinct from militant jihadism, which seeks to impose a violent criminal code and territorial expansionism, like what we see with groups like Boko Haram. Conflating civil court advocacy with extreme militancy just completely misreads the situation and honestly ignores the actual nuanced goals of the local movement. Which brings us to Section 4, an identity tug-of-war, tradition versus legalism. So we've got these two powerful forces pulling in completely opposite directions within the exact same socio-political space. Check this out. Isese seeks cultural preservation and equality, while the Sharia push seeks legal governance via formal jurisprudence. When it comes to identity, traditionalists are ethnic first. They identify deeply as Yoruba Atada. But for the Sharia movement, it's faith first, aligning with the global Ummah. One movement focuses on seeking social respect and public holiday recognition. The other aims to build formal civil court systems right within the state. Even their external influences are pulling from opposite hemispheres: the African diaspora in the Americas versus the Middle East and northern Nigeria. It is, quite literally, an identity tug-of-war. And finally, Section 5, Omoluabi, the cultural firewall, managing the tension. So you might be wondering, with all this incredible tension, why hasn't this resulted in massive civil strife? Well, enter Omoluabi. This is a profound Yoruba philosophical system that places the absolute highest priority on good character, tolerance, and community harmony. Crucially, it elevates these virtues way over any sectarian divide. Think of this philosophy as an active cultural buffer. It's the thing keeping the peace between the rigid edges of these different religious and cultural movements. To really visualize how powerful this is, just picture a typical Yoruba household. It is incredibly common to find a Christian mother, a Muslim father, and a child who studies the traditional Ifa religion, all living peacefully under one roof, sharing meals, and celebrating each other's milestones. This isn't just some abstract sociological theory, guys. It is a beautifully lived, everyday human reality for countless families. This deeply blended family structure creates what sociologists call internal pluralism, and it acts as a natural built-in firewall against extremism. You see, radicalization relies on othering a group of people, but it's exceptionally hard to radicalize against a group when the person you are being told to hate is literally your own mother, your father, or your brother. Ibalo, that concept of family we talked about at the very beginning, it reinforces Omoluabi every single day. But, and there's always a but, right? This ancient firewall is currently undergoing a massive stress test. Modern social media algorithms are actively radicalizing and hardening both sides. Traditionalists are getting much more vocal and unyielding about claiming their ancestral land, while religious conservatives are becoming increasingly rigid regarding their interpretations of divine law. The digital age basically thrives on polarization, and it is actively amplifying the extremes of both of these movements. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question. As social media continues to fuel these divides, will the famous Yoruba tolerance survive the ultimate test? Omuwabi has held this region together through centuries of immense change. But this tug-of-war, it's never been quite this technologically amplified. It's a dynamic, rapidly evolving situation, packed with lessons for pluralistic societies literally everywhere. Understanding these structural forces is absolutely key to watching how it all unfolds. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll see you next time.